To Bloomberg's criticism of Bill de Blasio's ads of being racist.
We're in the Republican primary. They're in the Democratic primary. We'll start talking about Bill de Blasio and Christine Quinn and the others after this primary is over. Right now, all we care about is the Republican primary.
Do you think we're going to have boots
I
on
think
the
if
ground
we talk
in
about
Syria?
who should succeed Mike Bloomberg, there's no question Joe Lhota is the right person to succeed Mike Bloomberg. Mike Bloomberg and I have a lot of things in common, and we have a lot of things that are different. However, the one thing we have in common is 20 years of government independent of the democratic machine of this city. Independent of the democratic machine politicians. Independent of these people who suck up to every interest group you can imagine and then change their viewpoint. That's the difference. That's why this city is so different than the other cities in America. That's why we have a city that functions better than just about any other city in the country. And the person who can carry that on is not the people on the Democratic side, all of whom are career politicians. The person who can carry it on is Joe Lhota, who has exactly that kind of background. Background as an independent person, background in business, and a background in government. He's got both, not just a career politician.
What about John Katsimatidis? In his ad, he says that Joe Lhota is no Rudy Giuliani.
Well, thank goodness. That would be really strange if there were two of me. Wow, the city could only handle one of me, just like they could only handle one of Ed Koch, or Joe Lhota is Joe Lhota. And again, like with Mayor Bloomberg, where I share a lot of things in common, and I have differences, Joe and I share a great deal in common, but we have differences. Joe is his own person. He has his own way of looking at things. We have pretty much the same political philosophy, but not exactly the same. The way to evaluate Joe is not, do we have the same ideas, but is he going to bring the same kind of independent government to New York City that I brought and that Mayor Bloomberg brought? He'll have his own ideas, he'll have some of his own direction, but will he generally be the kind of independent, tough mayor that I was and that Mayor Bloomberg was, and that these people can't be? Just look at how often they've changed their position. I watch the Democratic debates, and I need a scorecard to figure out what position they're in on that particular debate. I can count each one of them have taken 3 or 4 different positions on some of the most critical issues. They flip around on stop and frisk. They flip around on taxation. They flip around on housing. They flip around on education. Why? Because they're all trying to figure out, how can I get the special interest on my side? How can I get the teachers union on my side? How do I get this? This man will decide things based on what he believes is right for the city. And that's what he shares in common with Mike and with me. And that's why he should be the next mayor.
If Joe wins the primary, are you going to be out campaigning for him?
I'll be out campaigning for him anytime, any place that he wants. He is our hope, really our only hope, for a city that can continue as this very, very strong independent city and not get turned over to a bunch of career politicians who have some very, very bad ideas.
Why is he better than his opponents in the Republican primary? Why is he better than John Katsimatidis?
Well, in the Republican primary, we have 2 very good men, in addition to Joe. I know both of them well. I consider both of them friends. I've worked with both of them in different ways. Joe is just better qualified. You just look at the background. Joe has both the business and the government background that neither one of them have. Neither one of them have that kind of background. Neither one of them has been there running OMB in New York City, understanding municipal finance the way he did as an investment banker. New York City needs that right now. That's hard for the electorate to understand, how difficult our finances are right now. They may very well be more difficult than when I became the mayor. We need a man who has a deep understanding of that. Joe has that. They don't have that. Second, we need someone who's really seen the tough decisions that have to be made in government. The tough decisions we made for 7 and a quarter years. And this is the man who helped get me through, and the city, September 11th. That's a unique qualification that nobody else has. He's seen the worst that could happen in this city. He watched it. When I got out of my van and arrived at Ground Zero, the first person I saw was Joe Lhota. The first person who walked up to me was Joe Lhota. Looked in his eyes, and that morning I spent most of my time evaluating who on my staff could handle it and who couldn't. I looked into Joe Lhota's eyes. I saw eyes of steel. It remained that way for 4 months. He's been tested. They haven't been tested.
A lot of the Democrats seem eager to run against Joe Lhota because of your connection to him and the idea of sort of rehashing the debates that you might have had during your administration. Do you feel that you might become an issue if Joe Lhota becomes the nominee?
I think Joe Lhota will be the issue, and he'll be a good issue. It's not about me. It's not. I think the ads that have been run about is he Rudy Giuliani or isn't he? It's also silly. Joe Lhota is Joe Lhota. One of the things that he has is experience, having been in my administration. If people want to question the success of that administration, then what Joe can say is, okay, you can take us back to 2,200 murders a year, 2 riots in 4 years, 10.5% unemployment, 1.1 million people on welfare, a city people didn't want to come to, a city that had lost $1.1 billion in conventions, a city that was considered, front page of Time magazine, the rotting of the Big Apple. That was under the last Democratic administration. Instead, we turned over a city that was the safest large city in America, that had one of the lowest crime rates, that had a much lower unemployment rate, that had retained another 500,000 jobs, and that had cut welfare in half. So they want to have that debate, they can have that debate.
Do we need to invade Syria?